Well, our next segment, we're excited to have the head coach of Weber International University's men's beach volleyball team, Savanna Siegrist. And Savanna, welcome to Sports Central.
Thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to highlight the amazing team we have at Weber.
Well, there's so many things I want to ask about this because this is an emerging sport, and it seems like this sport really has that Olympic impact. You know, every 4 years you get that boom from the Olympics. Do you see that as a coach, and how does that factor in how you approach it when there's new players playing?
Yeah, absolutely. The uptick in beach volleyball in general definitely came from those like 4 Olympic cycles in a row, where we had that gold medal for the United States with Misty May Traynor and Carrie Walsh-Jennings. And ever since then, it's just kind of kept steady. The women's programs are growing all across the country. It was the fastest sport to go from an emerging women's sport to a full varsity sport. And we're hoping to find that same momentum on the men's side. It's that same thing where we have a few good Olympic cycles in a row and the boys find that inspiration, and our USA Volleyball develops the programs, the pipelines for the boys to get national training and get coaching by the best coaches in the country that have been playing professional and coaching college forever. And so they get all these opportunities to come up and to really develop from a young age into our national teams. And college is another step in that pipeline and making sure they have the resources they need from juniors all the way through the Olympic pipeline.
You played for Oregon, correct?
Yes.
So what did you think of that result last week against Coach Prime in Colorado?
That was pretty nice. That was very satisfying. There was a lot of hype lead up for that, and so I was at work, so I couldn't watch the full game.
No.
I know.
Well, there wasn't much of a game actually
no,
with the
really
end result.
wasn't.
Well, you have a unique trip, like a lot of individuals that end up in Florida. They're not actually from here. So I think from Maryland, but went to Oregon, now in Florida. What have you seen as a major difference in this sport in those regions as compared to what's going on here in Florida?
Yeah, absolutely. So grew up in the Mid-Atlantic region, so Maryland, Delaware, that's where we found most of our beach volleyball. But as I was growing up, we were still kind of in that developing phase, so it was a lot of travel down to Florida, out to California, Georgia, Alabama. There were so many places that we had to go to really find national level caliber play. And then there's also amazing opportunities out in Oregon. One of the largest beach volleyball tournaments in the country is held out in Oregon, Seaside, Oregon. So there's also a very unique beach volleyball community there. And then in Florida, it is just so central to the culture in some places. Like on the East Coast, from Miami through Deerfield Beach, all the way up through Jacksonville, there are so many great and thriving beach volleyball communities. Amazing volleyball organizations that run tournaments and clubs that are for juniors all the way through adults, so that are continuing to develop and raise the level of play.
That's fantastic. So you mentioned you played at Oregon. It looks like you were the winningest player that's ever played there, started for 3 years. That's an impressive record. You've coached many champions in your coaching career. Where do you see the Weber men's volleyball team going this season and in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a very talented team. There are very few established beach volleyball programs across the country for men. And so the boys that come here are among the best of the best. We have a pair that's currently out of town this weekend because they're training. They're on the U21 national team, and they'll be traveling to Phuket, Thailand in about a month or so. To represent the USA at FIVB championships. We have junior national champions. We have players that have played their whole life just beach volleyball and are just absolutely students of the game, and they are all very, very talented. The only thing that I really had to do is just kind of hone that talent and focus that energy through to hopefully a national championship in Huntsville, Alabama, the first weekend of November.
What is the major difference between the male game and the female game? Because I could see Josh and I going out there and it's kind of like go play baseball trying to hit a home run. Like, we go out there and we'd be trying to kill the ball and it would just be flying all over the place. So now obviously we wouldn't be good at this, but you were talking about channeling that. What is the major difference between the male side and the female side in the approach to the game?
So they're becoming more and more similar with every passing year as we develop players. Female side is typically more finesse, a lot more on the strategy side. The men's game can be a little more complicated in the way they approach blocking techniques and then also blocking schemes. So there's all these different things you can do up at the net. So for those who don't know, beach volleyball is only 2 players on the court versus indoor volleyball is 6. So the court's only a square meter smaller than, or a meter each side of the court smaller. Mm-hmm. So it's 2 people pretty much covering the same amount of court. And so the way that they go about covering that court and finding that empty sand, the men typically use more power. They have to have a blocker up more of the time and protect the net a little bit more than you see in the female game.
Yeah, I was just curious to say, or ask, sorry if I cut you off there, but you talked about it's just barely smaller, but it's 2 people versus 6 people. But the communication when there's 6 out there to not run into each other and stay out of each other's way to accomplish sending it back over. But then you have the flip side of that, there's only 2 people trying to do the same thing. I don't know how to ask this. The 2 people are in better shape than the 6 people are, certainly, but it seems like they would have to be to cover that, and you're in sand.
Yes. Yeah, there's so many different factors that make beach volleyball more difficult. We have the wind, we have the sun, we have the sand, we have and then it's also the 2 versus 6 people. So they have to be in better shape. How they jump and how often they jump and the strategies they use to make sure they get through the whole game is definitely different from beach to indoor. And then their communication, like you brought up communication, is that it's just as important for 2 people as it is for 6 because they have to make sure that their responsibility of like what part of their court they're covering and they're taking charge of is covered and then coordinate the next contact with their partner. So from the pass, the set to the hit, like it all has to be communicated.
It almost seems like it would be more intimate, almost more intuitive. Is there any cross training or off the, I guess for lack of a better term, court or off the beach training that these players go to try to hone in on that, that intimate relationship? Yeah,
absolutely. So I'd always tell my players that the player itself is not as important as the partnership. Like you have to be willing to put that energy and focus in developing that partnership and building that trust between the 2 people. And beach itself is a great cross-training tool for any sport. So like when we would do our training at Oregon or when I do my training throughout, like going and running on the sand is so much more difficult.
Sure.
And at every facility that I've ever had to play at, there's always another sport there. Like when I was at school at Jacksonville University, our football players, our track athletes were always down on the sand doing their sprints. So it's really important for our beach athletes to make sure that they're not just doing their running, not going for a mile run, but they're actually on the sand and getting those sprints in because that movement is so different.
I have an idea. You and I can go with the team to Thailand, and then we can take PGTV with us, and we can have an international exhibition. You and I take on the world.
All right. Well, my calves burn just walking down to the beach, so
we will not score a single point.
No, it would be over fairly quickly.
So, when is the season, and is the seasons different for the male side or the female side? And just give that kind of information.
Yeah, absolutely. So for men's beach volleyball, their season's in the fall, and then their indoor season is in the spring. Okay. There's a lot of crossover, especially at smaller programs like Weber from beach to indoor.
Just get ready to ask that. Are they playing for both?
They are playing for both. We have a few that are just indoor only and a few that are just beach only, but there's a lot of crossover. So our season is right now, we've had 2 events so far. At our first event at Liberty University, we swept all 3 teams that we played.
Awesome. Nice.
And then we had a USAV Men's Beach Collegiate Challenge. We had a 1st place finish, a 9th place finish, and a 17th place finish. So they're very proud of how the boys performed there. And I'd be remiss to say that if I didn't say, we have a home tournament this weekend. So if you guys want to come out and check out the Weber men's beach volleyball team, please come down. We'll be playing all day Saturday and all day Sunday. We'll be playing Stevenson and Reinhardt University on Saturday, and then the boys get to just go after it and play a pairs tournament on Sunday. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch. And then we have one more event, and then we have nationals November 3rd through 5th in Huntsville, Alabama.
So the home courts are right there on the lake?
Yes,
right?
they are. So come on
awesome.
down. There'll be a lot of sports. We have a football game, a soccer game, and our beach volleyball game all day Saturday. So come on down, join us at Weber International University, and do a little rain dance because we don't want to get thunderstorms.
So they are definitely not letting us go down there because the balls would be in the lake.
For sure.
Oh, the boys do that too, so don't worry about it.
Well, all right. Well, Savanna, good luck to you. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports Central, and we'll be excited to track your progress.
Thank you guys so much.
All right.
If you enjoyed this interview and want to watch more Sports Central, click the video below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.